Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Kuhle Frank. So today I'll be covering the disappearance and abduction of Amahle Thabethe. But before I get into that, I would like to give out a disclaimer. I mean, no disrespect to the people I'm going to be talking about. This is just information I found online and compiled into a video for educational purposes and for people to be aware of these cases. So I wanted to start with this case specifically because it's a case that is very close to my heart. Not because I know Amahle personally, but because it's a case I've been following since the very beginning. It honestly breaks my heart that to this day Amahle is still not found. It's been over a year, about 17 months, that she has disappeared and said to be abducted from her home, and honestly there haven't been any leads since then. So to start from the very beginning, Amahle Thabethe was born on the 3rd of November 2010 to her mother Ngozi. She was born in a township called Tsakane in the municipality of Ekurhuleni in Gauteng. So population wise, there are about 140,000 people living in that area. She was a grade 3 learner at a local primary school at the time she was abducted. Amahle is described by her mother and family as being like any other 8-year-old. She loved laughing, she loved smiling, she loved playing, and she loved her mother tremendously. She loved and enjoyed school, and she just loved being in the presence of her friends and family. She was, however, shy around people that she didn't know, but other than that, said to be big-hearted and welcoming. Saturday the 6th of April 2019 was like any other Saturday in the community. The kids were out playing, women were doing laundry, household duties, others were just in their yards, drinking, smoking, chatting, lokshin and kasi vibes basically. And Amahle and a group of her friends were playing about 2 blocks away from her home. So around 1 p.m. that day, they were approached by a man that they didn't know, and they were very cautious and alert about this. So this unknown man walks up to one of the friends and asks her to accompany him to a nearby shop. However, this girl refused to help him, so he walked up to Amahle and asked her for directions to this shop. Now Amahle, being the sweet girl that she is, she agrees to accompany him. So she and this man walked towards the road that led towards the shop. Her friends were very concerned about this, and rightfully so, because they all didn't know this man. So they decided amongst them that they're going to follow Amahle and this man to the shop. However, this man reportedly snapped at them and told them to stop following Amahle, and they retreated and watched the two disappear around the corner. After watching Amahle and this man disappear around the corner, they went back to playing. Later on that day, Amahle's mother goes out to call Amahle to go back home. She finds the friends that Amahle was playing with, and Amahle was not there. When she asked the friends where Amahle was, they tell her that she had left with this man and never came back to them. So they had assumed that she went home straight after that. So she asked them about the man. They described him as looking young. They said he was light-skinned and he had a scar on his face. They also said that he was wearing a beanie, a white shirt, and black shorts. So now, not knowing what to do, Nokulunga goes back home, and she and some family members and friends mobilized a small and short search around the area where Amahle should have been. And unfortunately, they came back with nothing. However, whilst on the search, someone mentions that the man the kids described sounded very similar to that of an identikit that was making rounds on social media. Nokulunga gets back home, she looks for this picture online and rushes back to the kids, and the kids had agreed that this was the man that had lived with Amahle. So I'm going to trail off the timeline a bit and talk about the man in the identikit. So the man in the identikit is said to be around 25 and 35 years old. He has caramel colored skin and has a scar on his cheek. The man is wanted in connection with 58 cases of rape, and his victims range between the ages of 12 and 20. So the crimes connected to him date back to 2012, predominantly in the township areas of East Rand, including Tsakane, Duduza, Patfontein, Etwatwa, and Crystal Park. So the way he operates usually involves him claiming to be a figure of authority in order to gain access to his victims' premises or to lure them away to a secluded area where he sexually assaults and threatens them. One source I found claimed that there is DNA evidence linking him to some of these crimes. So an interesting fact, if I may call it that, if all of these cases that are said to be connected to him are actually connected to him, it would make him one of the most prolific serial rapists in South African history, period. A 50,000 Rand reward has been issued for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of this suspect. So obviously now they are panicking. It's getting late and there isn't any sign of Amahle, and she possibly lived with a well-known and wanted serial rapist. So they finally called the police and a missing person report was filed. The unfortunate thing about this case is the police treated it as like any other missing person case and not as a kidnapping or an abduction. And they said they did this because Amahle was seen willingly leaving with this man. She wasn't forced or anything. Now, I understand their viewpoint. I understand that they have to follow procedures. But this is a minor we're talking about, an 8-year-old. She obviously willingly lived with this man because she was innocently showing him directions to the shop, and she was planning on returning to her friends straight after. There isn't any evidence showing that she wanted to live with this man permanently because firstly, she didn't know him, and secondly, she would have needed her mother's permission to leave with this man. But also, there isn't any evidence showing that she just wandered off or she got lost, because she knew her surroundings and this man was the last person she was seen with. Now, because her case was treated like any other missing person case, it never got the attention it needed. Not enough resources were allocated into this case and precious time was lost. A weird, interesting thing about South African law is kidnapping and abduction are two different crimes. So the South African police website defines kidnapping as a crime which consists of unlawfully and intentionally depriving a person of his or her freedom of movement, and or if such a person is a child, the custodians of their control over the child. And abduction is unlawfully taking a minor out of the control of his or her custodian with the intention of enabling someone to marry or have sexual intercourse with that minor. So my personal opinion about this case, so little was done by the police. Whilst researching, I never found any sources that stated or claimed that the police had done any big searches or anything like that in the surrounding areas. But on the 9th of April, 3 days after Amahle had disappeared, the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party and some community members did a search of their own. Whilst out on the search, the community members had identified a suspect. They told this to the police, and again, the police did almost nothing about this information. So the same party did their jobs for them. They went out, located the suspect, and handed him over to the police for questioning. Police reportedly questioned the suspect. They searched his house and They claim to have found no evidence linking him to the disappearance of Amahle. So on the 12th of April 2019, 6 days after Amahle had disappeared, they released him. On the 16th of April 2019, an awareness march was held in Tsakane demanding the return of Amahle Thabethe. Now this is when I first heard about this case because it was on the news and it was circulating on social media and everyone was talking about it. This is also when bits of information and leads started coming up. A promising lead came from a woman who claimed to have seen Amahle on the day she had disappeared. This woman claimed to have seen Amahle in a vehicle with 2 adult males. She claimed to have seen them in Boksburg, which is about 30 kilometers away from Tsakane. Amahle's aunt Amahle Thabethe responded to these claims and asked the woman to report this to the police. However, I'm not sure where this lead ended and whether the woman did actually end up going to the police. Another unfortunate thing about this case is as the weeks went by, so little effort was put in by the police man and police woman in charge of this case. They stopped making any progress and they basically stopped communicating with the family. And because of this, the family decided to hire a private investigator to look into the disappearance. The first thing the private investigator told the family was the fact that Amahle's friends had identified the man in identikit as the man who took Amahle was not solid evidence. And I think it's mainly because the kids had identified him under an uncontrolled environment with no law official. So a defense attorney could easily argue that the identification was tainted and the kids were influenced into saying that it was him. The picture was also making rounds on social media, so the kids could have been warned about this man, hence they remembered his face. Also, if you remember from the beginning of this video, the kid's description of this man was very vague. It could have been anyone. So now I'm basically going to compare the way the man in the identikit operates and the events that happened surrounding Amahle's disappearance. Amahle was 8 years old at the time she was abducted, and the man in the identikit usually targets young women around the ages of 12 and 20. So that would basically mean she wasn't part of his target age group. The man in the identikit seems to target and approach individuals, girls and women who are on their own. But in Amahle's case, she was within a large group of children and he first approached a different girl before he went to Amahle. And thirdly, the man in identikit has never taken his victims for a long period of time, nor has he ever tried to kill them. However, with all of that said, it's not very uncommon for a serial rapist to want to change his ways and start exploring and expanding their fantasies into physical violence. But now the question would be, why would he want to start with Amahle? And if the man in identikit is involved and actually evolved into murder, where is Amahle? Would his first suspected murder be that clean? And as in, where could he have possibly hidden Amahle's remains so well that after so many searches, her body has still not been found? On the day of her disappearance, she was wearing blue jeans with hearts embroidered on the right side of her leg and a long-sleeved white t-shirt with black stripes on the front. So there are a couple of theories of what could have possibly happened to her. But what we do know is she wasn't taken by force and she didn't plan on staying with this man for a long period of time. So the first theory is a dark one. Maybe whoever took her had intentions of raping and killing her, and it's a possibility that he did exactly that. He raped, murdered her, and disposed of her body and her remains are yet to be discovered. The second theory is a very positive one. It's a theory that I am holding on to, and until proven wrong, this is the theory I believe. And the theory is she's alive and out there. It's possible that she could have been sold off into human trafficking. She could have been, I don't know, adopted by a family, but there isn't any evidence confirming that, because that family would have come forward by now, because she has been in the news. Everyone has been talking about her. But also human trafficking has become a thing in South Africa, so it's possible maybe she was sold off into human trafficking. Amahle needs us. She is relying on us to be her voice since hers was taken away on the 6th of April 2019. She needs us to share her story. She needs us to talk about her, keep her name alive. We need to go out there. She needs people to look for her and basically not forget her. Her mother has been in and out of hospital due to severe stress. The constant circling of what ifs must be one of the most draining and devastating feelings for her. She's physically, emotionally drained and exhausted, and she couldn't celebrate Amahle's 9th birthday because Amahle wasn't there. They couldn't celebrate Christmas, New Year. There isn't anything to celebrate because their daughter isn't there and they don't know whether she's alive or not. If there's anyone who has any leads, if anyone knows anything about Amahle's case, where she could possibly be, I will leave contact details of the police in charge of this case in the description box. Also, an interesting fact about this case is all of this information I shared with you guys today is actually information that was released in 2019. There hasn't been any new evidence or any leads since 2019, and honestly that breaks my heart. But that is it for today, and that is it for this case. I wish we could have ended on a happier note, but unfortunately this is not the case. I'll see you guys on my next video.